right, it is Wednesday, and you know what that means. Another edition of the Pocket Change Market Report dropping for you. Wow, I think this is the last one for the month of June. Wow, crazy how we just went through the whole entire month, did a good solid 8 or 9 of these things. It was, kind of interesting month. I thought maybe we'd see some market slowdown, and yeah, there was a little bit of a trickery happening beginning of the month when I thought, oh yeah, the market is certainly taking a little bit of a nosedive, but I don't know about that. I'm very unsure about how the market is going these days because the actual results, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm about to share with you has told a completely different story. So we're going to take a look at some of the coins that have sold here in the last about, I'd say, 24 to 48 hours. A pretty nice stacked list of coins. Of course, if this is your first time here, this is the video that everybody loves where we talk about some realized sales of not only varieties and errors, but also some singular kind of like regular key date coins that people have sold. And the best part is none of it's graded. That's the really cool part about this whole ordeal, is that you don't have to invest the kind of money that it would take to grade an error or variety. It might just be too expensive in relation to the actual value of the coins. So, probably the next best thing to do is just to go ahead and sell it if they serve no purpose to your collection. So, this is a great kind of compilation of sales activity, and it also shows us, kind of like a barometer check of what the market is doing. And boy, the barometer check is freaking just, I don't know. It'll tell you, one week it's down, next week it's up, and, summertime's not showing any blues whatsoever. Another thing to point out before we jump into this list, like I always do, the coins featured are solely from the listings, all right? So you're going to find the best and the worst images in this particular list. I didn't juice or play around with any of the photos. It's exactly like you're going to see it. So you're going to receive a little bit of a photography lesson as well as we go through this. Maybe I'll point out a little something you guys need to know about when you're going to take images of your coins for sale. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into some of the biggest and brightest change finds and cherry picks out there. Again, very nice list today. Last one for the month, but hey, we're going to kick it off with one of my favorites. As long as these are being sold and they're realizing some pretty good money, I'm going to continuously talk about it until the wheels fall off. That's where these things are either going to dry up or the prices have stabilized to the point that they're not worth talking about. Like the drooling die chip 2022 quarters, I don't talk about those anymore. Those things are way too common to discuss on a weekly basis. And furthermore, they've dropped down quite a bit in value. Those don't talk about too much. You haven't heard me talk about them probably in about a month or so. However, the 2021 Washington crossing the Delaware quarter with the aforementioned crown die chip certainly needs to be talked about because it's still, again, you've heard me say this kind of saying before, it's a perennial eBay all-star. It's like guaranteed money in your pocket if you're able to find any one of the different kind of like later die states or later progressions of this crown. So you're only going to find these on the Philadelphia minted coins, although there are some kind of like medium-sized crown die chips that are also on Denver minted coins as well. So you guys there on the West Coast are going to get a little bit of love from this particular find. But you'll notice that die chip formation on top of Washington's hat is exactly what we're looking for. This is not the biggest one out there, but I would say, the medium-sized ones are okay as well. And it shows. This particular coin ended on a sale through regular auction format for $48. And all it took was 3 total bids to get up to that amount. So, again, very nice find. The money's really, really good on this one. And I would expect it to become a very solid seller throughout the rest of this year. Keep in mind, this is still a somewhat newish coin. People are going to be paying the most amount of money for these as long as they're in pretty good shape. So keep that in mind. You wait too much longer while these things are getting beat up in circulation, they're not going to be selling too well or for that kind of money here really soon. The next one that we have here is a coin that I've talked about in pretty good depth here in the last like 2 or 3 PCMR episodes. And that's the 2-feather buffalo. Now keep in mind, these all supposed to have 3 feathers. There are a number of specific dates within the Buffalo Nickel series that features these braided die 2-feather buffaloes. One of them here is the 25S. Now the 1925S is a tougher date, but it really doesn't mean a whole lot until you get beyond grades of like VF. That's where it really matters to actual Buffalo Nickel date collectors. So, you know, you could cherry pick a coin like this still for around $1 or $2. I know a few of my coin dealers I frequent have these little cups, you know, with a bunch of worn down Buffalo Nickels, spanning a few different decades from teens, 20s, and 30s. They have coins like this, 25Ss, 25Ds, for around $1. Okay, but keep in mind, this coin right here is what I would call just an album filler. You know, it's really not going to serve any other purpose than that. It probably grades around, maybe if you're lucky, a good 4, you know, somewhere around there. But most importantly, what you're looking at is this third feather is going to be completely gone. All right, so it's been over polished. This was a common occurrence on these because there were also a lot of clash dies that happened. These particular errors were kind of the bane of existence for the U.S. Mint employees, and they had to polish them away. All right, when they do that, they also polish away and get a little heavy-handed in certain areas where some detail is lost. So even a coin in this condition where, you know, normally it'd be worth about $1 or $2 because it is still somewhat of a tough date and lower end collectors will still add this to their albums. This one ended up selling for $15, and a lot of that has to do with the 2-feather variety. So if you have a coin shop, this is a really great cherry pick. You know, 10 to 20 times face value return on your investment is pretty solid. So keep that in mind. So we have a couple really nice, very, very nice currency pieces here. Both 1981A series of notes. We have this $5 bill Federal Reserve note that you see here with a gutter fold. The gutter fold happens when the sheet, prior to any sort of print, has a wrinkle in it. So if the wrinkle is not stretched out, and usually this is going to be something that the BEP employees actually inspect. Sometimes they'll overlook it. But when there's a wrinkle and it's printed over, it's going to develop these non-printed channels on the note. Okay, they're quite visually appealing. They're not particularly rare, especially on the older notes like pre-1990. So this is something, again, to keep an eye out for. Or perhaps, you know, there you might have a local coin shop that probably sells currency, and they probably have something like this on the cheap. I see it all the time. There are just some dealers that prefer not to deal with errors and varieties, so they're looking to fire sale things like this. So this one right here sold for $79.99. Condition is everything. This note is actually in really nice shape. It's not completely circulated. It's very minimal on the soiling factor here. Just a really good example of this type of error. The next one that we have here, again, another 81A, this time a $5 bill, much like the previous example, like it would be any different, right? So at first glance, the front of the note looks like there's nothing going on. This looks like your run-of-the-mill $5 bill. But when you look at the back, wow, pretty neat. You also have a little bit of unprinted area on the top left portion of the note. So this was a what they call a fold-over error. So the sheet had folded on one of the corners and then overlapping the certain area of the note and then printed over, okay, leaving what some would call a fold-over obstruction print is kind of like another term that I've heard this. So with nothing there, you know, that's kind of a telltale sign that you do have either a fold-over or an obstruction. Obstruction could be another, paper clipping or something that had laid on the sheet and then it printed over, and then, it translates into a void on that print. So this one right here, really nice looking note. Again, circulated. You can see the fold areas on there. Sold for $104, which is a pretty good sale on this one. Now, sometimes you don't need an error or variety. It's just finding a really nice type coin, or maybe, a series gem is all that matters. All right. This is a 1934D Washington quarter. It has no specific varieties or error. However, it's a pretty nice looking coin. I would say it's a great kind of representative example that'll fit into any Washington quarter album or collection. If you're looking to get something that's a little bit more scarce, and you can pretty much name just about any 1930s quarter with a Denver or San Francisco mint mark, and you're looking to buy one on the cheap where you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on a graded piece, something like this would certainly work. Now, for those of you out there with albums, maybe that's been passed down to you at some point. Be aware that there are certain dates of quarters and other denominations of coins that sell really well as a standalone. You could see just some luster in, especially on the reverse, but also some on the obverse. But also recognize that this coin is also circulated a little bit. So this one right here is sold for $118.75. I would imagine upon receipt, this one's going to end up in a really nice album, and that's where it's going to sit. Now, the talk of the town has been this 2022P Washington quarter. This is the new American Women's Series featuring Sally Ride on the reverse. Now, this is the first known major clash die error on this coin. And I talk about this one and broke it to you guys about a week or week and a half ago with great results. A lot of people are finding these. At one point, there is an example that sold for around $80, but, being that the word is out, these things are being found and they're being sold, still for pretty decent amounts of money. Not that $80 like it was, about a week or two ago, but, still pretty respectable amounts of money. When you look at this, you can see the strong clash dies right here, just the outline of Washington's portrait that is actually on the reverse die. This particular coin sold with a combination of 2 bids total for $28.50. Yeah, it's not an $80 coin, but if there is an example that's a much nicer looking coin with a much stronger clash die, those particular examples will command a lot more money in the long run. Now, here's another great coin that you could cherry pick at a local coin shop. You just don't know it yet, so make sure you leave no stone unturned. Your coin dealer will probably think you're crazy because all you're doing is looking at some of these cheap coins, in the hopes of finding something that you could sink your teeth into. This is an 1863 Indian head cent with a right good sized cut die break on the reverse. You can see that right here. Now, the coin in question is in pretty decent shape. You can see all letters on Liberty, okay, which indicates that this is probably pretty close to a VF35, maybe an XF40 example. However, there are some condition areas of the coin that, that makes this coin not exactly, a gem in people's eyes. You have some kind of like rust staining or something on the reverse here. But it's that cud die break, ladies and gentlemen, that you want to look out for. Cuds in general, along with retained die breaks, are fun to find on Indian head cents. They could be cherry picked out of bulk Indian head cent lots at the coin shop, for under $1 or so, and you could turn these things around and sell them for $20, or $50 or something like that. This one right here is one of the earlier dates from what we call the white cent era, where it was copper and nickel combined. This particular coin ended up selling for a really, really good amount of money at $176.45, and that's with 17 bids. All right, this one's really simple, and again on a kind of semi, tough date, but the coin, is not a high grade example. Again, this is another one that you could pick out of a bulk Buffalo nickel lot for about $1 or $2. This is a 1926D Buffalo with a counterclockwise rotated die error by about 25 degrees. Pretty cool, very minor at first glance. You wouldn't know or identify something like this unless you were really looking for it. This one right here ended up selling for $24. So if that were the case and the seller did find this one on the cheap, I would say that's a pretty good way of making a few dollars in the process. And the next one that we have here is actually a very interesting one. And I'm not entirely 100% sure that this is a clogged die issue. On the obverse of this steel scent, you can see that the 4 and the mint mark, there's an actual mint mark there, guys. Both had like impacted grease in the dies, okay, and that's why they come out very weak. Now, someone I've heard online had said that this is something completely different and has nothing to do with a strike through or clogged dies. The moment I find information on that for you, I'll let you guys know. But the seller also said that there was something going on the reverse, like some missing letters or whatever. But what I do see is some corrosion, which is pretty easy to see and find on these steel scents. They just didn't hold up well at all. Any sort of moisture would kill these things. So this one here sold on the merit of the clogged die issue. This one sold for $19.45 with 13 bids. All right, this is pretty easy here. We have $60 face value in just star notes. And this is actually a seller that goes through a lot of currency because I think this is the guy that goes through currency, $1 bills specifically, to find those 2013 New York B district duplicate serial number notes. Okay, they're all star notes. So, he or she assembles all of the star notes and then sells them in bulk. Okay, sometimes that's kind of the way to go if they're like a higher print run or what have you. $60 face here ended up selling for $93.99. So we got about $30 profit on this one. Not too bad. That's the way I would go for these higher print run notes, star notes that is. And especially if you go through a bunch of these, when you're targeting a specific star or print run or these 2013s, keep in mind you could always sell the extraneous stuff for a really good amount of money. Currency just keeps on going. How about a 1974 $20 bill with a grossly misaligned print, overprint that is, shifted all the way to the right, as you can see on this one. So the serial numbers and your district seals are all shifted to the right by probably a good 3/4 of an inch. It's very noticeable here. But this note right here, again, showing its age, lots of circulation, not a prettiest example out there. And the reason why I'm telling you this is even notes and coins that are pretty well circulated, still very collectible. This one right here sold for $51.95. And much like the 63 Indian head that we've seen prior, this is a 1904. This one is not good at all. It looks like it's been cleaned. And there's some tool marks on there, as you can see, especially right above the date. Looks like whoever had this attempted to clean off maybe some corrosion or something like that. But most importantly, there's another cut die break on the reverse. A common kind of weak stress area on the dies where you do get a lot of these break-off pieces from that reverse die. This one right here sold for $75.99. Again, I can imagine it. This is something that you can find in bulk Indian head sets, pull it out, resell it, and then just accumulate the money and then go buy bigger lots and bigger and better things with it. And that's how you do it. That's how you kind of recycle and reuse and profit off of things like this. Yeah, you guessed it. We have another 2-feather buffalo, this time a 1920. A very, very low-grade example. I'd say this thing qualifies as maybe and about good if you're lucky. It has a somewhat partial date. You can see the 2 and 0 in the date there. So a 2 feather, a braided die area is right there. This one sold for $15. That's a no-brainer. I would sell it for that amount all day long. And here's a 1989 Lincoln Memorial set. A little bit tougher date to find an off-center strike like this. This one's off-center by about 60%. Coin's in decent shape, but it shows a lot of split plating as well, as evidenced by the exposed zinc core that you see on this coin. This one sold for $32.94. Again, these off-center strikes are collected by date. So when a tougher date comes around, there's going to be more people interested in that. Canada coins getting a little bit of love. How about this 1981 off-center struck coin? Probably looks more Broadstruck than off-center. But Canadian errors are kind of a big deal right now. There's a dedicated base of collectors north of the border from where we're at, and they're looking for premier pieces that just don't come to auction that often. As we all know, the Royal Canadian Mint does not produce any more pennies for circulation, so they're pretty much make do with what they got. And that's why the market has kind of been so good on any sort of Canadian coin error. This one right here ended up selling for $120.71 US. So fantastic. If you guys have something like this, and this is quite minor, by the way, just know that these have a tremendous secondary market. Pretty good one here. If you're into varieties, then you've probably found one of these. This is a nice high-grade 1944 D over D repunch mint mark variety. This one is RPM number 4. You can see the secondary D is punched slightly north and to the east compared to the primary mint mark. So the seller, Jim, did a really good job with the arrows, kind of highlighting the areas that you need to look out for, and the close-ups are dynamite. This coin right here sold for $21.90. So again, another coin to be on the lookout for. And we got a couple, I would say, rather minor errors this time on a couple of Washington quarters. We have a 1967 with a curved clip there at about 9-10 o'clock position. And you do have a little bit of Blakesley effect, which is a little flattening of the opposite side of that clip. Again, nothing too spectacular. This is a very minor error, but you know, they are out there for the picking. This one sold for $14.85 with 3 total bids. And the same goes for this 1965. This time, the curved clip is on the exact opposite side of the coin, which is kind of neat. This one kind of complements the other coin, and they are sold by the same seller as the 67. But again, you got the Blakesley effect. This one looks to be in a lot better shape. You do have a little bit more luster on this one. This particular example sold for $19.49 with 3 bids. All right, so we got another just really good kind of key date. All right, and you would be surprised how many of these just kind of like float around. You know, just these old albums that's been sitting around that's been passed on to you from like a you know, a grandparent or another family member, and you just never know, okay? Because back in the day, this particular coin did circulate, all right? The mintages were very skim, all right? I'm not disputing that, but these definitely circulated, especially during a time where the Great Depression really put the hampering on people's ability to save money. People just needed to buy groceries and, you know, do whatever they can to support a family during those times where finding a job was really tough. So this is a 1922 Lincoln wheat cent. This coin, as you guys know, is only produced at the Denver Mint. However, this one right here is missing the mint mark. So this is the 1922 plain. This one exhibits the weak reverse die on here, which is the least desirable. However, if you're looking for just this date, it's very scarce. And if you need one, you're going to take whatever you could get. This particular coin, I'm happy to say, sold for $505. All right. And before you guys like throw pitchforks and say, oh, it's not worth it. Well, take a look at your Red Book price guide, go on eBay, and just know that plain 1922s with no mint mark are hot right now. And this one right here, not graded, so you don't necessarily have to grade this one to make the money. Sometimes just taking the best pictures that you can is all you need to capitalize on one of the top dates in the Lincoln Cent series. Oh, we just got more currency. Currency is the thing these days. It's not quite the rage. We're not talking forest fire type level of collecting, but people do know that paper money, is a very widely collected, very deep subject. This is a 1977 $1 bill. All right, honestly, nothing going on the front of the note, but when we flip it over, we have, again, another misaligned reverse print on this one. It's not a miscut because the front of the note, looks pretty good. The print is just slightly misaligned. Nothing too crazy here, but the back, it's misaligned and it's tilted. So the sheet, obviously, it was not plumb during the printing process. It was a little bit tilted and shifted and so on and so forth. And this is your end product right here. This one right here sold for $64.39 with 15 bids. Again, another solid sale. Again, just a beautiful looking error here. 1945 Lincoln Wheat Cent. This one is Broadstruck. All right, so this thing is about the size of a standard U.S. nickel. This all occurs when the collar that holds the coin in place during the strike was not entirely engaged. So all that metal flow has to go outwards, kind of like pressing your finger in Play-Doh. All the material goes outwards and makes it a lot bigger than it actually is. This one right here is sold for $25.75 with 11 bids. Keep in mind that these coins are very well collected once you get into the Wheat Cent reverse, and they're collected by date. People are actually looking for this date along with the Denver and San Francisco. And it's a little bit of a treasure hunt, and they're willing to pay a lot of money for them. This one's cool, and it's very minor. All right, and this is the big reason why that, you need to look at all facets of the coin, from the rim, the edge, in the devices. This is just a standard, very well-worn 1934 Lincoln Cent that exhibits a pre-cut die break right there. You see that die crack that goes from one side of one point of the rim, goes through the tip of the bust here, and then back to the rim. Eventually, that piece of the die would fall off to create a cut die break. All right, so the die piece is still there, kind of jostled a little bit, still minting out the coin as usual, but this thing probably didn't have too much longer to go. This one right here sold for $31.11 with 5 bids this time. Here's a 1982. This is a large date bronze Lincoln Memorial Cent. So this one right here was struck with another coin already struck, overlapping it. All right, kind of offset and overlapping, and this is what they call an indent with a partial blockage error on there. Pretty neat. The coin looks like it's circulated. I don't know how these things can circulate for a while without someone really getting curious and noticing, like, whoa, what's this? But I'm willing to bet a lot of people are thinking these things are damaged, But with that being said, this is a premier error piece here. This one sold for $77.95, which is really crazy. That's a lot of money. That's with 22 bids, by the way. So there's a lot of activity on this. Here's another off-center strike, but you're going to know that this one is a Denver. All right, we've seen our fair share of 1983 P off-center struck Washington quarters, but we don't normally see Denver minted coins, especially ones that look like this, where it's off-center by more than 15-20%. This one's off-center by about 25%. I'll be honest, it's a good-looking coin. This one right here ended up selling for $77. Which is pretty similar to the previous coin I just talked about. So it's on an even playing field. And Washington quarter errors are collected by date. This is a tough one right here, being that it's Denver. All right, so I'll say it once again. Make sure you're looking through your silver, and if you're going to a coin shop and you're cherry picking like these bulkish Morgan dollars, for silver melt value, be discerning. Just check out some of the things that catch your eye. There's a lot of cool errors and VAM varieties to look out for in the Morgan Dollar series. This is one that I saw and I'm like, man, that's a really good one. 1921 Morgan is a one of your perennial key like high minted coins. This was available everywhere, and this one has a pretty good strike through over the date, going into the fields, and in the hair. So again, I could imagine someone cherry picking one of these out of bulk silver and paying probably $27, $28 for the thing. The ultimate prize right here ends up selling for $120.57. These older silver errors are always going to be very sought after. All right, we're back here. This is another one of the 2022P. This time a Maya Angelou quarter. Again, this has a pretty phenomenal strike through, much like the other coin I talked about last week that made all sorts of waves because it was the first one to hit the $100 mark. And we have another one right here. Now, this coin looks like it's circulated a little bit, so it's not like a full gem example like that last one. But it is certainly one of the bigger field-restricted strike-throughs on there. So this one right here, you can see the strike-through region where there was a lot of that pasty grease along with some other debris all mixed in. This one right here ended up selling for a $50 bill. Keep in mind, this is the current stuff, right? These are out there right now for the picking. Miles will look for them because, they'll help you pay for gas. That's how I see it. Is some of these will help pay for gas, and there are little gems, hidden gems, and nuggets that maybe the U.S. Mint knows exists, and they're floating around out there. This is a good one to look out for. The market is just going to continue to be very, very good and fruitful on these bigger strike throughs. Well, this is a classic case of don't overlook anything. And that's what most Kennedy or half-dollar roll hunters do, is they're dead set on the silver. And they'll flip through these like it's nothing. The clad ones, that is. So I'm telling you, this coin that you're looking here right now on screen sells for a lot more money than silver. I'm telling you, this is one to look out for. 1983P Kennedy half dollar with the missing FG initials, which is supposed to be right here. Again, that area struck through or fill dye or braided away somehow is a phenomenal find. There are a few particular dates to be on the lookout for. 82, 83, 71, 71D is another one. With very, very little work, you could find something that's 50 cents in face value. This one ended up selling for $38.50. Just think of how many 90% half dollars that is. That's like what, seven 90% half dollars, just for finding this one coin that is not all that special, is very well circulated, but yet collectors like it. So why not? Here's just a really cool looking 1902 Indian Ned cent. It's off center by about 10%. You guys know my stance on any earlier obsolete coinage with off center strikes and broad strikes. I just love them. And, they're easy to sell ungraded. That's again the theme for this. This one right here is sold for $129.50. Just a really strong market for any of these coins. This might be the last piece of paper currency on the list for today. This is a 1988A $1 bill with a misaligned black district seal. Along with, whoops, there you go. Yeah, just a little flick of the mouse kind of screws everything up. But not only the black seals here, but also the four corner digits, which are all ones, are shifted downwards too. Here's one of the ones here. So it's a piece of the printing plate that's shifted and misaligned that causes this. This note right here sold for $172.49 with 24 bids. One of the strongest sellers for the week. There's a little bit of a reverse image for you, showing some of the circulation wear. And we're going to end it off on a few of my favorites. We have this really nice 2,000 piece Sacagawea dollar with the aforementioned Wounded Eagle little die scratch or gouge. This is the FS 901 in the Cherry Picker's Guide. You can see the pair of die gouges that go through the breast of this eagle here. Again, these are being found all over the place. This was on my top 5 list I did a few days ago of a coin that you can realistically go to the bank, pick up like $500 face value of these rolls, and find this today. I mean, that's how common they are. Everybody's selling them left and right on eBay, and they all seem to hit kind of like this dollar range for sales prices. That's very strong, very surprising, but I don't see it dropping anytime soon. This one sold for $96.99. So I'm kind of like debating on whether or not this is a deal because all the carbon spotting on the reverse is like throwing me off. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's a really cool error, and I can't believe it sold for very cheap. But I look at the reverse, I'm like, there you go, that's the reason. But I keep second guessing myself. So this Lincoln Memorial cent was struck through a late stage cap die. All right, that's why the whole front of the coin is very weak and pretty much missing here. But not a fantastic example with all of the spots, which is kind of like corrosion on there. Does more harm than good. You can't clean it up. You can't scrape it away or brush it off. It is what it is. And therefore, it sold for $17.53. Without the spots, this is probably a $50 bill all day long. And we're going to end off this week's PCMR with the 1920 Lincoln Wheat Cent, which is Broadstruck. Boy, is this thing really nice. It's, again, another really tough date. Really, really tough date. I think probably even more tough than any Indian head cent Broadstruck from the 1900s. This one right here is a coin I'm willing to bet is needed in whatever collection it goes into. And as a result, this one finished at $55.23 to round out this PCMR for the midweek edition. Thank you again for joining in. Let me know what your favorite coin of this week is. Again, very robust sales for a slow summer, right? I mean, it doesn't feel like it's slow. I think people are taking the opportunity to turn some of the normal kind of like roll finds and all that stuff that people like to do during the summer and trying to make a few bucks. I think the biggest component to that is the inflation that we're dealing with. People are doing this to supplement their income to offset some of that inflation. So if people are willing to do this and make an extra $200 to $300 every month or more, then so be it. But we're also going to realize very nice, strong market activity because there's a whole host of buyers waiting in the wings to pick up some of these, all right, with their wallets wide open. That's going to go ahead and do it. I'm your host, Sean, with BlueRidgeSilverhound. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to today's video and events. If you enjoy the channel, make sure you subscribe as well. And come follow me on TikTok at BlueRidgeSilverhound. I will be launching more videos here after July 1st. I haven't done any in the last few weeks, but we're going to go ahead and reactivate and put more videos up for you guys. Nice, quick, 30-second videos that you guys love. That's it. Thank you guys again for joining. You guys take care. Happy hunting. And go ahead and find yourself some treasure. Coinaholics, I'll see you next time.